Most people don't say, I'm anxious about money. Instead, they say things like, I just feel behind, or I should be doing better than this, or I can't do a budget, it's too stressful. And for a lot of people, that low level financial stress never really turns off. And instead of dealing with it, we avoid it. I'm Trevor Cochran with Reverb Financial, and in this video, I want to talk about something called money anxiety. What it is, how to know if it's affecting you, and most importantly, how to start fixing it. Let's dive in. So, what is money anxiety? Money anxiety isn't about not having enough money. In fact, a lot of people who struggle with it are actually doing fine on paper. According to Calm.com, money anxiety is a persistent worry about your finances. The kind of worry that lingers in the background and shows up even when there isn't a fire to put out. It's questions that keep you up at night like, am I saving enough? Or what if the market crashes? What if I'm making the wrong decisions? And over time, all of that noise just gets exhausting. Money anxiety doesn't always show itself as panic or sleepless nights. A lot of time, it actually feels responsible. It can sound a lot like this. I just need to be more careful, or I'll deal with this later, or I don't want to mess it up, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But what's really happening is that all that money stress is driving the decision making, or really more realistically, the lack of decision making, because money anxiety often leads to avoidance. Not because people don't care, but because avoiding or ignoring our stress seems like the quickest way to experience relief in the moment. Which is great because we all know that if we ignore our problems, they will eventually go away, right? I think that's how it works. If money anxiety isn't just about how much money you make, and it's not always tied to an actual emergency, where does it come from? Because it didn't just show up one day. For some people, it may come from growing up around money stress. Maybe your childhood was surrounded by financial tension. You might have grown up in poverty. You heard your parents arguing about money. You've lived through seasons where things felt unstable. And even if your situation is better now, you've internalized that feeling. For others, it may come from unsteady or unpredictable income. If you work in commission or run a business, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or maybe you've gone through job changes. Maybe you've been laid off or let go. When money isn't consistent, that anxiety dial never really turns off. And then there's all the noise. I'm talking about the markets, inflation, all the headlines, social media. Even when your finances are doing just fine, the messaging around you is screaming that we're on the edge of disaster and you're just one small decision away from falling off the cliff. And finally, there's a lack of clarity. Trying to navigate your financial life without a clear plan is like steering a ship on a cloudy night without a compass. You might still get where you need to go. I don't know, I've never steered a ship, but I'd imagine you're going to be stressed the whole way there. When there's no clear framework, anxiety fills the gap. It's important to understand that money anxiety isn't a character flaw. It shows up when people feel responsible for outcomes they don't feel equipped to manage. And when you don't feel equipped to manage your financial situation, your stress feelings don't just stay hidden in the background making noise once in a while. No, they actually start shaping our behavior. Still not sure if this is you? Here are a few examples of what money anxiety looks like. You feel guilty spending money, even on things you've already planned for. You ignore the electricity bill because it was higher than expected and you're charged a late fee. You have 100 or 1,000 untracked transactions in your budget app because you fear you've overspent. You're afraid of how low your bank account is, so you don't log into it and you accidentally overdraft. You don't log into your investments because you're afraid you've lost some value or that you aren't on track. You miss paying off the credit card because you don't know how much you owe and you're afraid to log in and find out. You don't talk about money with your spouse because it just feels too heavy. None of those examples means you're bad with money. They're just signs that you're stressed out. And when you're stressed, you lose the ability to engage wisely and you forget about the bill, you don't check the account, and on and on. So, what do we do with all this stress? Because the goal isn't to make anxiety disappear overnight. The goal is to stop letting it run the show. So here are 3 ways to respond to money anxiety in a healthier, more intentional way. First, and I know this sounds crazy, but run toward your anxiety instead of away from it. Anxiety always has something underneath it. It's a belief, a story, an assumption about what might happen next. My friend Brian Powers says, you can't have an emotion without a belief system. So if you're feeling anxious, the question isn't just, what am I afraid of? It's, what do I believe that's producing this fear? It might be the belief that if I mess up, everything falls apart, or I should be further along by now, or I'm bad with money. You don't work through anxiety by suppressing it. You work through it by confronting the belief system underneath it. Second, create a financial plan. Don't lock yourself into a feeling. Instead, create direction. A plan can give you a clear path forward and systems to implement. Those systems may look like a debt payoff strategy, consistent budgeting, a retirement strategy, just to name a few examples. A plan may not necessarily eliminate uncertainty, but it gives you something to do when uncertainty shows up, and that's huge. And number 3, get help. Work with a counselor to process the feelings and a financial advisor to create an action plan. You want a team in your corner to help partner with you on the numbers and on the emotions. You don't have to carry it all by yourself. To close this video, I want to share one of my favorite verses on this subject, and it is in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. It says, "Give all your worries and cares to God, for He cares about you." If God is willing to hold on to my worries, my anxieties, my cares, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I'm going to start there. If you're interested in becoming a client or would like to learn more, head over to reverbfinancial.com. We'll see you in the next one.